Self-awareness. What is self-awareness? Well, self-awareness is the way you think. It is analyzing your thoughts and your emotions in order to become a better person. It's something that you can train, it's something you can be better at, and it's all about the way that you think. For me, self-awareness was a discovery that I made kind of on my own. I had a little bit of a push from a video that I watched a long time ago, and that video was Athene's Theory of Everything, and I'm going to show a little bit of that video now.
The human brain is a network of approximately 100 billion neurons. Different experiences create different neural connections which bring about different emotions. And depending on which neurons get stimulated, certain connections become stronger and more efficient, while others may become weaker. This is what's called neuroplasticity. Someone who trains to be a musician will create stronger neural connections that link the two hemispheres of the brain in order to be musically creative. Virtually any sort of talent or skill can be created through training. Rudiger Gamm, who was a self-admitted hopeless student, used to fail at basic math, and went on to train his abilities and became a famous human calculator, capable of performing extremely complex mathematics. Rationality and emotional resilience work the same way. These are neural connections that can be strengthened. Whatever you are doing at any time, you are physically modifying your brain to become better at it. Since this is such a foundational mechanism of the brain, being self-aware can greatly enrich our life experience.
That last sentence really opened my eyes, and it made me start thinking about what self-awareness is and what self-awareness means. I started to listen to my thoughts, and I started to listen to the way that I reacted in certain situations, and it just changed me fundamentally. And the thing that's really important to remember is that the brain is a biological machine. If you go into surgery and you have part of your brain removed, that's going to change you. That's going to change your personality. You're not going to be the same person. So that's what I'm talking about when I say that the brain is a biological machine. So here's what you have to do. You have to disassociate yourself from your brain. Your brain is simply the hardware that you run on. And just like anything else, it can be flawed, and it is flawed. Now, you are not your brain, but you are limited by it. And self-awareness is understanding these limits and these flaws, recognizing them, and correcting them in real time. So, what are the benefits to self-awareness? So the benefits are the ability to unlock your potential self. And what I mean by that is your brain kind of puts limits on what you can do. They're not hard limits. They're just kind of like, oh, you can never be a piano. You're not a musician. A lot of people think that they're not musicians, but in reality, they've never actually sat down and tried to play an instrument for longer than an hour. So I want to take a look here. The definition of self-awareness is conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And that is the dictionary definition. But as I said before, I kind of discovered this before reading anything. Like, I've never taken a psychology class in my life. I have done some self-studying of psychology, like just listening to like audiobooks and documentaries and things like that. And those are very interesting. I love psychology. But the fact that I kind of self-learned this, it doesn't really line up exactly with self-awareness, like with its dictionary definition. So what I said before, conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. You'll notice that thoughts, conscious knowledge of one's own thoughts, isn't listed there. And I would argue that that's a big part of self-awareness. the Wikipedia page for self-awareness actually lists 6 different levels of self-awareness. And it says, according to Emory University's Philip Rochat, there are 5 levels of self-awareness which unfold in early development, and 6 potential prospects ranging from level 0 to level 5. And those are having no self-awareness, that's level 0, to having explicit self-awareness, which is level 5. So level 0 is confusion. At this level, the individual has a degree of 0 self-awareness. The person is unaware of any mirror reflection or the mirror itself. They perceive the mirror as an extension of the environment. Level 0 can also be displayed when an adult frightens himself in a mirror, mistaking his own reflection as another person just for a second. And then explicit self-awareness is level 5, self-consciousness or meta-self-awareness. At this level, not only is the self seen from a first-person view, but it's realized that it's also seen from a third person's view. They begin to understand that they can be in the mind of others. For instance, how they are seen from a public standpoint. And that's the end of all the levels that are listed here, at least. And I think that's a bit problematic because that 5th level, explicit self-awareness, is present in everyone. It's present in every human. And what I was talking about earlier with the observation of one's own thoughts, that is not always present. I mean, everyone thinks about their own thoughts to a certain extent, I think. When someone is very upset, very mad, sometimes they can calm themselves down and they can act in a more rational way. Everyone has a bit of self-awareness in them in that respect. But when I mention self-awareness, some people have never thought of the idea of self-awareness in like the observation of your own thoughts, thinking about what you're thinking about, essentially. And when you say self-awareness and you put a name on it and you say that it has a skill, then people start to think about it differently. And they start to say, I need to monitor myself. I need to think about, and what I'm thinking about right now productive? Or is it healthy for me? Are my thoughts okay? So in the case of like a person who has like is severely depressed, maybe there's a physiological problem in that person's brain, and that problem could be like an imbalance of certain chemicals. If someone is self-aware, they can say to themselves, I think something might be wrong with my brain. It's not me necessarily, but it could be something in my brain. I could have a chemical imbalance, and I'm feeling that right now because of my thoughts. Maybe I should go see a doctor and see if I can get some kind of antidepressant. And what you're doing there is you're disassociating your brain from yourself. So the levels beyond level 5, I would say I was kind of thinking about like kind of categorizing. And really, I think the level 6, I guess you could say, would probably be being able to analyze one's own thoughts and emotions. I think that's probably level 6. Recognizing that the brain is an entity and that you reside in the brain. And again, we're not talking like metaphysical. This is all like practical. So if you just make these assumptions, they will help you in a practical way. And you don't have to believe these like in a religious context. You just believe them in a practical context so that you can apply them in your life. So level 6 is just kind of just observation of your thoughts and emotions to kind of gain better control of yourself and better understanding of yourself. That's really important. And then level 7. So level 7 is something that I discovered recently, and it's very mentally taxing. It's called, or I call it, third-person displacement. So basically what you do is, let's say that you have some bad habit that you want to get rid of, or let's say you watch too much YouTube. Okay, that might be a fair assumption to make. So what you do is basically you kind of think up this perfect self, this perfect you, essentially. And then you put your mind, You visualize you being in that perfect self. And then while you're being that perfect self, you stand over your own shoulder and you say, get up from the computer. You have work to do. It's time to go work out. It's time to start eating healthy. You say these things to yourself, just like a mentor would, or just like a parent would tell you to get up and go work out, or a girlfriend or spouse would tell you, you need to go work out or you need to eat healthier. You do that to yourself. And what that does is it frees you from the need of that person. Like, you don't need another person telling you that you need to do something. You can be that other person. And this is not something that's easy to do in real time. It's almost kind of like a meditation. You kind of have to do it. You have to consciously thinking about it. It's pretty mentally taxing. So I haven't really incorporated it into my life a lot yet, but I have a feeling that it can be very useful. So the best way to improve at being self-aware is to learn psychology. Learn how your brain works. That's really the key. If you know how the brain works, you can identify patterns. You can identify things that are happening in the brain. If you know how anger works, if you know that anger subsides within 15 seconds or something, then you can logically wait out those 15 seconds, and then you will no longer be angry, at least not to the extent you were 15 seconds ago. So learning about the brain and learning psychology is extremely important, because why not learn the hardware that you run on? If you're not listening to your own thoughts, you're not learning about yourself. And that's the one thing about psychology, is that with psychology you have a lot of experiments that you can do and everything like that, but at the end of the day you really can't observe thought, which is a huge part of psychology. So you always need to be listening to your own thoughts and kind of just thinking about why you're thinking about what you're thinking about. And but anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. And if you are interested in any more of these self-help videos or any tech videos, go ahead and subscribe, and I will not disappoint you. Anyways, I will see you in the next one.